I love challenging questions. No, I meant it seriously that I love challenging questions, because these are the types that make us go deep into truth. So his question was, on the banks of Ganga, I had said, it doesn't matter how you envision God, what your country or culture or language may be. And he's asked about homosexuality in Hinduism and how it's taken, how it's perceived, and that aspect. So we've got theory and we've got practice. And when you have practice, you have prejudice. And this is true of any society, any group of people, anywhere. Any religion that we look at will have beautiful tenets, and then we look at how those tenets are being put into practice, and what we end up with in many cases is prejudice. So in Hinduism, there is, of course, an openness to everyone. The sheer number of passages in the scriptures that talk about over and over and over again the divinity of all, with no exception at all. Race, religion, sexual orientation, doesn't matter. The divinity in all. The fact that every single being on earth, everything on earth, is pervaded by the divine. And that too equally. It's not like, well, these are pervaded by the divine this much, these are pervaded by the divine that much, they're very pervaded, slightly pervaded. Nothing like that. Over and over again we're told, God lives within us. And then of course we end up in a society with what I'm going to call societal ills or societal evils. And whether it's a caste system or whether it's discrimination against homosexuality, it is absolutely, undeniably present in society. The caste issue is actually getting better and better as time goes on. I wish I could say the same thing about homosexuality. I couldn't say it honestly. And it's very tragic. The only way that in my own mind, in my own quest for truth and balance, in a world that I have adopted as my own, that has touched me in ways that are indescribable, and yet that really does have such an issue with something that to me feels like such a societal evil and ill. The only way on a personal level I've been able to rectify this in my own mind is through an awareness of the fact that in the Hindu tradition, the entire purpose of life, the reason that we're born, is to realize experientially our oneness with God. That's the whole reason we're born. Has nothing to do with what our job is going to be, how much money we're going to make. The purpose of human birth is to get closer to God. Closer and closer and closer, ultimately we have that final union. Moksha, samadhi, liberation, whatever we call it, in which we no longer are accruing karma, we become one with God. Okay. In line with that as a fundamental principle, the whole purpose is to go beyond the calls of the body. Hinduism is a culture in which people fast. Not because they don't have enough to eat, but as a spiritual practice. They stay awake, chanting and meditating all night long. They do intense austerities. When Puja Swamiji was in the jungle studying under his master, he had to stand on one leg for 11 hours a day. It's a practice. There's a whole host of practices that we go through. Not quite as severe, of course, as what his Guru put him through, but as part of our spiritual discipline. Why? To remind us, I'm not this body. The body is screaming for food, I'm not giving it to it. And what that does in the mind is makes us understand that there actually is an I that is neither the physical call of the body where my stomach is grumbling, nor is it the emotions that say, oh my God, if I don't eat, I'm not going to be able to think clearly. If I can't think clearly, then I'm going to make the wrong decision, and therefore I really should just have a sandwich right here and now. If I can witness without judgment, so I'm not against my body, I'm not against my emotions. If I can witness without judgment, but not give into either of these, then I have an experience of the I that's neither the body, nor the identification, nor the emotions. And that's a very, very deep and profound spiritual experience. And I share all of this with you because sex, even heterosexual married sex, is considered something that is for the purpose of propagation of the species. Now I'm going to take a little side detour here, just because I want to make sure that because if I don't do it, it's definitely in some of your minds, and so we'll just take care of it right here so we can all come back, which is the issue of the Kama Sutra. Because what always comes up is, well, if the whole purpose of heterosexual sex is for the propagation of the species, then why do you have a sutra on it? What Hinduism says is that everything we do in life should be a way of getting closer to God. And there's a lot of things we do. We eat, we sleep, we propagate, and so many other things. There are sutras for almost every aspect of our life. What we should eat when, how we should eat, how the food should be prepared, how we sleep, how we rise, and therefore, naturally, how we engage in sexual relations. If you're going to do it, well then let it also be a path to God. So that's the Kama Sutra bit. Now we come back to the point. Even heterosexual sex between married people is seen as a way of propagating. If a married heterosexual couple in their 40s or 50s or later went to a religious leader and said, God, we really love having sex, and we have sex 20, 30 times a day. We have it on the kitchen table. We have it in every room of the house. We have it. That religious leader would say, you people need to stop this. This is not what your life is about. All you're doing is getting pleasure out of it, of the body. That's not what you were put here for. You have children, your children are grown. That work is done. Now all you're doing is enjoying yourself through the pleasures that this body can give you, and that's not why you were put here. Stop it. The whole way that the cycle of our life in Hinduism goes is first we study, then we have our family life, then we move away from the family life into what's called Vanprastha ashram after we've fulfilled our duties of the family. Ultimately, we move into a time of sannyas. So you're dealing with a culture where, at its very fundamental tenets, is anti-sex for enjoyment anyway. When you've got something like homosexuality, what it looks like is sex for enjoyment. We're not making babies, we're not propagating the species, we're not giving birth to the next enlightened leader of the people. Therefore, all it is giving into the call of the flesh. And in my personal way of making peace with this, that's the way that I understand it, is that it's not against homosexuality per se, but that it's against simply sex for enjoyment as a practice anyway. And that's where the root of the discrimination comes in. Now, of course, I know as a society, India has a long way to go. But if we take it in the way that I've just explained it, it stings a little less. And it enables us to understand where the practice of the discrimination may have started, and the fundamental base for that. And then, of course, you've just got general human ignorance, which you've got all over the world, and that just perpetuates it.